Welcome to This Week in Vexly. Starting off, we will review our trade ideas from last week. First off, we liked Microsoft as a long last week due to the long signal from the market maker model. But we did caution that Pluto was neutral and that we wanted to see a buy signal before longing. On Tuesday, we actually saw Pluto signal a sell and would have changed our opinion on this idea. From Monday's open to Tuesday's sell signal, Microsoft was down about 1%. For our next idea, we liked Mara as a long due to the squeeze conditions due to the option mechanics. We mentioned that downside was possible before a move higher and that we wanted to see 16 act as support. From Monday's open to high of week, Mara was up 4.6%. And if you didn't catch that move, Mara gave plenty of opportunities to scalp at that 16 support we mentioned. Moving on to our Fed and liquidity recap from last week. Starting with CB swaps, we mentioned last week that it was possible we were seeing a new uptrend forming, which would be good for liquidity. Looking back at this week, we can see a drawdown occurred and is a concern for liquidity. Moving to overnight repos, we saw some very small buying this week and could have some small effects going into next week. Lastly, we have the Fed's balance sheet that has continued even lower on its drawdown crusade. Next, we want to look at our weekly returns and note the red week was led by tech and followed by SPY and IWM on the way down. We still have more room to the downside based on weekly returns is possible due to the fact that we've seen reversals typical come after a -3 to -4% weeks. Next, let's review our heat maps from Friday's close. Remember to pause the video to review the action on the heat maps. Here are the heat maps for ES, NQ, and RTY. Now let's get into our ideas for the week ahead. Starting off, we like Apple as a long going into the week. Market maker model and Pluto are both long. Moving to our gamma profile, we want to note the peak negative level at 180. The peak negative gamma at 180 should act as support for the week as long as the positioning doesn't roll lower. Moving down to Vanna profile, we want to note the peak negative is at 175 and peak positive is set at 190. Moving down to P1 skew, it is flat on the week, and here is the weekly seasonality for Apple. Lastly, we have our VX levels, which have phantom prints down to 180, which is ideally where we would like to long based on the gamma profile. For our second idea, we like Square as a long. The market maker model and Pluto are both signaling a long. Moving to our gamma profile, we want to note the negative peaks at 60, 65, and 68. With spot price being below some of those negative peaks, we can see price move back up to those peaks due to in the money puts being closed. Moving down to our Vanna profile, we have peak negative at 60 and peak positive at 70. Moving down, we have our P1 skew, which is slightly negative for the week. Here is our weekly seasonality for Square for the week ahead. Lastly, we have the VX levels for Square. One thing to note is the phantom wick down to 60, which is ideally where we want to look too long. That's it for this week. To recap, we saw liquidity remain poor due to CB swaps reversing and little buying on overnight repos. For our trade ideas, we like Apple as a long. If it holds above 180, we expect it to head towards 190. Our second idea is to long Square along as it holds above 60, which we then expect it to return to 65 to 68. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.